nothing is left from all what I have been teaching. You have to give them the base. They should learn how to use tools, but not just being skilled or trained by a teacher. Do now that, do now that. I think that's getting ridiculous.
And I think that is your $1 million answer, because it's true. A lot of what you see in the universities, I remember when I went to the university work, I was bored in high school too, but I was bored in college. I found college not very stimulating, and I didn't find the teachers all that knowledgeable, and I didn't feel that it was really teaching you a career or giving you the skill set to get a job afterwards. There was a lot of theory in some cases. I was an engineering student and then switched to business, with my minor being information systems, and I wound up going into technology. But there wasn't the hands-on were not really that strong. You didn't have a lot of hands-on work. And half the time the college was antiquated. We didn't have all the latest equipment. We weren't into the latest technologies. And it just didn't seem like the most stimulating place to actually go. I agree with you. I think we should take a step back, spend a year or 2 or 10 redoing the system, making it so that people go to school for a career. A lot of university work has nothing to do with careers. If you look at how many people have bachelor's degrees or master's degrees and they work in secretarial positions because there's no other jobs for them. If you go to college to get a degree in, let's say, art history, well, there's not a lot of jobs for art history unless you maybe go into museum work. What do you do with some of these degrees? How do you make some of these degrees pay off? As a parent, we used to always laugh that your kid comes home and says, I want to study to be, Latin studies. Well, that's great. But if you're not going to be a professor teaching that, you probably won't exactly have a viable career doing that. So what do you do with university work? How do you make it more functional? Do you have any ideas on that, Lieve?
More functional. We have to collaborate more with industry. We are collaborating quite a lot with the building site entrepreneurs. I don't know the right word. And but we have to educate them too. It's a college. I'm in a college for bachelors, not for masters. And they will have to go immediately on building sites to manage the building sites. So we try to make their final project as close as possible to their later work they will be doing on the building site. And try also to train them in soft skills. I was just typing in the chat room. I'm also a multitasker. That I think the way to go is problem-based learning. Just offer assets to the students, but they have to study the assets themselves and try to explain them to the other students. So I had a project like that, and I think that's the way to go, because the only way to learn something very deeply is to explain it to other people.
I agree totally. And in fact, there's that old, one teaches what one most needs to learn. And to a certain point, that is so true. The more you get out there and teach something, the more you understand it. One of my hobbies, for those who don't know, I've been teaching martial arts for a very long time. And you really learn martial arts by doing and by teaching. You can get to a certain level by practicing, but until you start teaching, you don't go full circle, where all of a sudden, from beginning to end, it becomes more known to you. And then you become a better teacher by teaching. Lieve, one thing I find sort of interesting, and a lot of times the people who teach in universities have never actually done the work. So, for example, you may have an engineer, or you may have a mathematician who is completely theoretical but hasn't actually applied any of the knowledge into a real-world situation. What do you recommend for teachers, aside from teaching, to get better at their skills?
They first need a professional career. That's what I think. But that's a bit difficult here in Belgium. Just take a sabbatical year and go into industry and do the work there, over there.
That's a great idea. And the audience agrees. Terrence, any more comments on the chat room?
It's just that they keep answering each other's questions. So quite a lively chat crowd today, and we've got maybe half a dozen different people in the chat room, and there's a little bit of volley going on about which tool is more practical, useful, better, and essentially it still comes back to money, time, and purpose. That there's so many different factors to evaluate whether or not one tool is better than the other that it's impossible to say that Captivate's the best tool, or Articulate, or Lectora, or Flypaper, or any of these are the best tool, because there's just so many different uses where each one can probably be the most optimal to use.
And I'll give you a little bit of advice. The only good tool is someone else's tool until it's your tool.
Yeah. And even when you think about it, PowerPoint in and of itself, although it doesn't have the data capturing abilities, that at least not that I know of, that the authoring tools have, but PowerPoint can create an extremely dynamic and non-linear training program. It's just we're limited sometimes with PowerPoint by the way we've been taught on how to use it, that it's a slide presentation. But PowerPoint is a great authoring tool to, if you don't have the money to spend on an Articulate, a Captivate, a Lectora, or Flypaper, and you can bring in almost all the features of those tools into PowerPoint, because most of those tools are PowerPoint based. So I think it's definitely overlooked. With the use of macros and hyperlinks, you can create very interesting and dynamic PowerPoint presentations that eventually can go into your Articulate or Captivate.
Hi, Terence. Hi.
Hello.
Yes, I do not agree.
Okay.
Presenter and Articulate are PowerPoint based, are based on presentations, but not Captivate at all. That's not true. Captivate was originally made to only for software demonstrations and software simulations.
But then it changed.
Now it's gone further, but it's not the same as Articulate. I think just like lemons and apples comparing, no.
It's an authoring tool.
Yes.
Well, and I guess my stance is that it's still, when you look at any of these presentations, they still look like a PowerPoint slide. And especially from sometimes a different designer can take that to a new level and make it look really extravagant and almost to the point where you don't feel you're looking at a PowerPoint slide.
And you can do that with any tool.
Yeah, exactly. But even when I'm looking at Captivate, I still see PowerPoint, and I can duplicate almost anything I see in Captivate on PowerPoint.
In fact, I think the only real difference between Captivate and, let's say, PowerPoint and some of the other tools is that Captivate has a media library which allows you to reuse objects differently. That's probably the biggest difference that I see, because they all have the quizzing, the testing, the SCORM, and the AICC compatibility. But there are some other differences where Captivate, for example, integrates to a large suite in terms of you get the the Photoshop, all the other integrations. That's nice. Those are some added features. And again, they're going to cost you a little bit more if you get the suite. But if you're a developer and you're a one-man show, let's say, you have to develop everything, well, it's a good way to go. But the end result, when you finish, can you tell the difference? Probably not. In other words, can you tell if it's Captivate, if it's Lectora, if it's Articulate? Maybe not. The end result could look exactly graphically the same with no difference. The way you get there may be different, but the end result could look the same. The level of interactivity may be a little bit different, but ultimately I think you're pretty close in terms of functionality. And then you have some other things about team collaboration. What tools can you use in a collaborative environment, or that can communicate with each other, and you can communicate as developers. So there you start branching out into other things, and there's a lot of tools out there that do things like that. So I think all the tools have their pros and cons and their strengths and weaknesses. But definitely the end result, as far as a visual look, is probably the same visually. What goes underneath it may be different. Lieve, do you agree with that?
Uh-oh.
Good e-learning, yes, but I'm always thinking about software training. I don't see how you can realize that with Articulate or Lectora.
You won't as well. And if we're talking strictly software training, I think definitely Captivate leads on both of those. Lectora and Articulate are very, very good for soft skills training. You could try doing software training in Lectora. It's not that easy. I've tried. You could do it in Articulate with PowerPoint. Again, not that easy, and it would probably take a lot longer than you'd want to do it. So in that respect, Captivate does make it a lot easier. Now, if you're just doing a demo of software, you could do that with Camtasia. You could do that with Articulate and some other tools, but that's a little different when we talk demo from actual simulation. So I think if we break apart whether it's a simulation or soft skills, then each tool will have a little bit more of a powerful, let's say, an advantage over another. One tool may have more of an advantage in one area than another. So it just, again, depends on what we're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, and I think that's where our disagreement comes from, is in perspective. That I do mostly soft skill training using Articulate, and it's rare that I do a software kind of training. And it sounds like that's the side that you're coming from. So I think we're looking at these tools with different sets of glasses, and that could be why we're disagreeing about the PowerPoint base in the tools.
Well, getting back to a little bit of the philosophy of universities and e-learning, Terrence, do you know of a lot of e-learning programs that have been successfully implemented in universities here in the U.S.?
Well, when you look at most universities now in the U.S., they all offer online programs, and e-learning is more than just Articulate, Captivate, Lectora. E-learning is web-based, it's podcasts, there are so many things that fall under e-learning. And with the shift in our culture, or I should say the accessibility of these technologies now, colleges and universities have really taken advantage of that, and they've created all of these online degree programs. And we're not just talking about some of the as seen on TV programs. I won't mention any names, but we're talking about reputable universities that are now offering online degrees, and even to a certain degree online classes that go with the degree of a student that's actually attending the physical campus. So I think colleges are in the U.S., from what I've seen, have been adaptive to learning or teaching or delivering their content via e-type devices. The challenge I think that we see in the United States is that our grammar schools and junior high schools and high schools haven't captured this, and we're still focusing on brick and mortar learning, where we could really take advantage of online training, both as a cost savings to the state's economy, and also to an effective way of delivering content, and in some cases more effective in delivering content than if you had an instructor or teacher teaching a group of 30 or 40 kids in a classroom.
Yeah, and I think our high schools are spending too much time taking tests and surviving the students than actually doing anything useful.
What about in Belgium?
That's so true.
Is that what you're seeing there?
Yeah, that's so true. We do